Hi, I'm Aaron.
And I'm Brad.
Welcome to Strange Realms. This is our, first official podcast. We've been recording this weekend. We've got the cryptid ones done. We just got to edit it and all that and get it together. We're going to do the UFO one pretty soon. But we figured we would give you, a good hour and a half worth of, an actual podcast. We're just going to talk about a wide range of stuff. Talk about cryptids, UFOs, secret societies, maybe just a little bit of video game lore.
Upcoming stuff that's going to be on the channel. We're just going to talk about more of the, just more topics. Get to know, what's coming your way. Different, get a little deeper into some of the subjects, right off the jump, and just kind of shoot from the hip and see where it goes.
Yeah. I guess we'd like to, we kind of made a video where we introduced ourselves a little bit, but it was super glossed over and stuff like that. I guess we just take a little bit of time to, explain what got me into it. We've already talked about it a little bit, but what got me into it, with stuff I'm really into the most. By the way, we got a cat and a bird, so if you hear background noise, that's what it is. I guess what got me into it was, like I said in the other video, UFOs, man. That was really the gateway topic for me, because it kind of, once you got into it, because it was super base at first. It was foundation level stuff,
right. Roswell.
Roswell. I didn't really learn about the Aztec crash, which we're going to talk about in this upcoming UFO episode, because that one was way crazier. It was much bigger craft and all. Yeah. They were both in New Mexico. That, and that's really that, and just, I don't know. I've always had I don't know. I can't explain it really. It was just, the fact that there's, other life out there, and that they've gotten to the point, spiritually as a, society, where they're disciplined enough to put their resources towards crossing mass amounts of space.
Right,
and it's super fascinating. I never really thought we were alone in the universe, but I didn't really get into the go down the rabbit hole, so to speak, with UFOs until 4 or 5 years ago, and then that kind of branched off into all these other topics, like the military-industrial complex, aeronautic companies who design jets and all this other stuff, like Lockheed Martin and Boeing and all these other people, EG&G, MITRE, all these companies. A lot of people you've heard of Boeing, but Lockheed Martin, not a lot of people know who that is.
Yeah, right.
They designed the Blackbird, the spy plane that we've got, that's flies in the upper layer, pretty much in the middle of that, almost in outer. It's pretty high up there, but yeah. And then that kind of branched off into all these. I always knew about the. I was aware of secret societies and stuff like that, but and I always thought the JFK thing was a little fishy. That was
definitely.
Just they just capped the president of the United States, and nobody. Lee Harvey Oswald actually, he took the fall, obviously, the brunt of it, but that was it. It was closed, and what? You know what I'm saying? They killed Lincoln, and I'm not saying that's what started the. There was more response to that, I feel than there was killing JFK. Which the whole Lincoln assassination, that's a whole nother rabbit hole full of just you just get lost in it, man.
Yeah.
But that was what primarily got me into it. What about you?
I like the 9/11 stuff is really crazy, and Building 7 and or Tower 7 and
Yeah.
all that stuff, and then
That's like, I'm not trying to cut you off, but
No,
that's actually that was another one that really got me thinking, man.
I've always liked UFOs, of course. That's just not knowing and wanting to know.
Yeah.
You know, the mystery of it all it's pretty crazy. And,
I guess that's what got me into all this stuff, secret societies and all that. Like
growing up in like the 90s, all the cool movie Independence Day and
they were coming out with it like it was super like heavy.
So of course we grew up with it, so we're like, oh, that's so awesome, and Star Wars and Star Trek and everything.
I mean, Star Wars is really like, but that's because that's kind of like what that's supposed to be like. If you compared it to our technology, that's like thousands and thousands. Like that's the whole. I'm pretty sure in the Star Wars lore they had mapped like 3/4 of the galaxy that they were in already, which is like.
No,
people don't realize like how big, how much there's trillions. I mean, trillions upon trillions of stars in a galaxy, and what they refer to as the Goldilocks zone. Like how far away. The cat is going nuts. How far away the sun was from the planet to have some kind of like chance for life, basically, and there's billions of Goldilocks zone solar systems. And it's just how. I'm not trying to get way off topic, but how like if you look at life on Earth, like it's really, really hard to stamp out. Like it finds a way. If it's that persistent and that determined, and that it's resilient, basically. Like
only here.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
I mean, they talk about bacteria on Mars and all this like super light. Like, oh, we found bacteria. We think there's bacteria in the ice in the caps. It's like. Yeah, okay. Like we know, like all right. I mean, that's a given in my opinion, just for me. But my bad. Go ahead.
No, you're good. So yeah, I can't wait to talk about UFO stuff.
Yes.
Anything that's like deep state, secret society's always been major, like interesting. Like, of course, you first find out about like. Probably the Freemasons or the Templars or maybe Illuminati. Everybody talks about the Illuminati, but it's a lot deeper than that and more. I don't know. I just feel like it's more complex and there's more.
Yeah, and I feel like there's competing.
People think
they're not all like in super cooperation with each other,
Right.
And like we're not saying that we 100% know. That these things exist and that all these conspiracies and agendas that we're going to talk about are 100% fact. There's just a lot of stuff you need to ask questions that makes you think, it's like you start researching into it and it's like, why is it like, why does that exist? Why do they do this? Why do they do that? There's no other reason, I hate to use deductive reasoning on everything, but it's like, really just follow the money. And that alone can show you that there's shady shit going on. Yeah.
Why is, the majority of the money that exists in control by a tiny number of people. So
and for me, like I said, this is just me personally. I feel like there's certain members or certain people that people think hold the power or they're like the richest people on earth and all this stuff. Like, take, Bill Gates, for example. I bet you there's people that are like, if you really, and we've talked about this a lot before, if you really had close to ultimate power, a ton of control, a ton of influence, what would be the best way to keep it? The best way to keep it would to, create an environment where people they're not really aware that you hold that much power and influence.
Yeah,
so they're not going to be coming after you. They're going to be coming after middle management, so to speak.
Because you're the philanthropist and
like you got to practice a lot of deception, but I mean it's not hard to do that. You start looking at MK Ultra and all these other, basically like social conditioning, literal. I know it sounds crazy, but when you say mind control, people are like hypnosis. No, like it's just basically slow, gradual conditioning. But you look at all those experiments that they did in the 50s and the 60s.
Microwaves and all kinds of
like it was blowing up. They had all these research projects. And there's documents now that they declassified that are like, of course, 35, 40 years old. But, they're talking about how they had all these like MKO, and they went and some of them went into detail how they would set them up. Like there was one, it was like basically like a what's called a honey pot, which is like it's like bait. It's like spy, like a spy trap. Like, and you use like they use women, like they had basically escorts, and they would set them up in this room and give them all these like drugs, and that's how they tested out LSD. They did it in a couple cities. They would give them out, and basically the escort would work, do what she does, and they would have like that room that they set her up in. They would have like this two-way glass that you couldn't even tell that it was glass. You know what I'm saying? Like they were watching, or they at least had some surveillance. They were monitoring the whole thing, and they watched the effects of like what it did, and then they saw what it could do, and maybe the potential for it. And that's when they started getting into like trying to make super soldiers and condition people and stuff like that and using LSD basically. That's why it was created, and it kind of got away from them, I feel like, but it wasn't really like, as far as LSD itself being able to control people wasn't really super effective, but they learned a lot from it, like behaviors and patterns, habits of people, and just different stuff. Like you introduce a certain stimuli, you typically get this response type of stuff.
Right.
And you can kind of, go from there. And they ran with it. They sprinted with it, honestly. And what's crazy to me is people like, they think, oh, well, that's all they did. It's like, no, man, like, why would they stop that research?
What make them,
Exactly. Like, what would cause them?
You got to keep going. And
if anything, they broadened it, in my opinion, and just took it more underground, and you don't hear about it. Like,
because it's like the more you learn about something, the more you realize how much you don't know about it. So for them to be doing that is like, they didn't discover everything they needed to know about it and just stop doing it. It's like what they discovered is now like so crazy and out there that they can't.
Like, what else can we do?
Right, yeah. Like, it has to be.
There's more to it.
Secret.
Oh, like, yeah, man. I mean, if you look at, what was it called? Monarch, which, for people who really aren't into conspiracy theories, it was like, that's what I think Facebook ended up being. Because if you look at like where they got some of their startup money, it was it was like a I don't know what you would call it, a firm or some kind of like company that was owned by the CIA that basically found they would research and fund and invest money in things that they could use, companies, ideas, whatever, and they could use. That would be useful to them, to have potential basically in any shape or way or form that helped them.
Espionage type of.
Yeah, but they got that money.
Research.
Like they donated a large amount to, the guys who originally created Facebook, and then you got the lizard man Zuckerberg, and like he stole that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. He kind of ripped that idea off, and it's just kind of like
supposedly. A CIA agent or something like that.
I mean, I never heard that, but I would not doubt it if he wasn't like at least cooperating in some way.
Oh, 100%.
If you look at like we're, not to digress too much, but I mean, big tech is. I mean, they're getting worse and worse about that all the time.
Oh,
so
yeah.
It would not surprise me.
They're power,
but
hungry, like I don't know. Just this. I'm glad I'm not on Facebook. At a personal,
I hate being on it.
Personal level. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know. I'm on there. Like when I get on it, I'm just like.
Such a toxic place.
Like I just.
Twitter's the same way, but I only get on there for like video game stuff.
Much. Basically.
And
obviously we use
Strange Realms,
Facebook. Yeah, we're on there. Look us up.
Yeah. We try not to get into too many like. Too much political stuff. Like obviously we're gonna talk about it a little bit here and there, but it's not.
We don't want to be divisive, like really, and we're not trying to.
Yeah.
Because nobody knows for sure, like exactly what's going on, big picture wise. They really don't. Not one singular person.
No.
So it's basically like, and we've said this in our introductory video, like we just want to know whether it's true, whether it's not. You know, like I just want the information, and as an adult, I can decide for myself, you know, whether I believe in it or not, or any of that. So,
if it has any,
that's basically like, you know, we want to keep that
just a sense,
MO basically.
a sense
you
of
guys, like,
it's a sense of wonder and learning, and just
hero
just
fan
because
stuff.
we're gonna talk about it doesn't mean we believe it. You know?
Yeah, exactly. It's just
it's gonna
interesting.
be way crazy. It's just
whether
like,
it's true
what
or not.
if, you know, what if, like.
Yeah. I mean, that's not to say that, you know, there's not, you know, considering what or depending on what you're talking about, there's a lot of truth to some of the stuff we're going to be talking about. I mean, you know, because when it gets wilder, like we start talking about Saturn symbology and, you know, all that stuff, like that gets way, way out there in the left field, like past left field. You know, it's way out there. But if you're talking about like, actually, UFOs is a good example because it's one of those things that there's just so much. I don't mean, regardless of everybody's personal opinion, just in my opinion, there's so much evidence out there and data.
And it's almost like, how can you deny it at this point?
Yeah.
You
I
know?
mean, and I've heard the whole, like what's it called? Blue beam, where it's like literally all, it's hologram technology and like the whole thing is a sham.
Every bit of it.
Like that's out there, you know, and that's, I'm not saying that you don't know what you don't know what you don't know, but, you know, me personally, no, I don't think it's that in depth, but, you know,
I feel like it could be, it's like, what is it, Project Snowbird, the guy was talking about, and
oh yeah, so where
the invasion, and
yeah, well, Snowbird was where if there was some kind of like aerial phenomenon in regard to UFOs or something like that,
they would attention away from that.
Drop drone like or flares and other stuff like diversionary like stuff in this direction and like really go all out to try to get your attention, basically like fireworks, but super high tech, you know, and all these other like tactics and stuff to draw people's attention away. And I really only saw that one video about it, that one guy getting intervied about it. His face was like blacked out.
There's a silhouette.
Yeah, you couldn't see him. So it was in the dark, basically. So you
I think
had no idea who that guy was.
I've seen the full interview, I'm pretty sure, but I think I've seen a clip while it was going around on like TikTok.
Yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
Which, that's another interesting thing. Not to get, you know, yet again off topic. If we digress, I'm sorry, but
yeah, we're just kind of
freeballing it, you know. And that's not the right word. Going with it. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Winging it.
There you go, winging it. That's the
Like
much better polite term for it. Let's see. Oh, what was that? Yeah, so it's like TikTok. Like, that's another like weird thing because it's a really quick way for people to, you know, have an idea or something they want to talk about and put it out. It's short and people can watch it, you know, while they're at work or doing whatever and digest it. It's just like anything. It's like Vine, yeah, basically. But like if you really look into TikTok, like China, like the CCP in particular,
it's another
who is like
it's just like, I mean, it's like
a
all the
monster
other,
of a political party, man.
It's
We're
like
talking
all
about
the
evil on
other
earth.
social media outlets pretty much that there is. It's all just spyware, in my opinion, like for the most part.
Well, I mean, it's not even like, I think a certain majority of it is, or a good percentage is just, you know, we're spying on ourselves. People are like, oh, I'm going to Huntington Beach, California, or I'm going, you know, whatever. Like,
it goes into,
I'm going here, I'm going there, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Like, I'm not saying you can't. There's good and bad to social media, for sure.
No, definitely.
If people
there's
feel
good stuff that happens on there.
People
all the time.
feel alone, and it helps them feel connected, and they can relate to people, and, you know, share experiences and just bond as, you know, people. Then I'm all for it. But I mean, clearly, you get on Facebook, if there's something about anything political, you've got, oh, this guy, you know, he's terrible. He should be, you know, blah blah blah, and then this guy's you know, on the opposite end. It's just the same back and forth, which we're going to talk about later a little bit. We're going to touch on that.
just another way of dividing.
Yeah, man. It's just bread. Not bread and circus. That's a whole different term, but it's just divisive. It's divide and conquer.
It makes, you got all these influencers and stuff, which is fine, but
and not all of them are on the take. Obviously, like not all of them are people who are being. They're talking in their ear, but I don't know. Yeah, some of them is definitely questionable because it's just like I don't know. Me personally, I don't trust the media as far as I can pick up this whole house and throw it. I mean, it's all like literally propaganda, dude. Yeah. It's just the same because I mean, if you go back like 10 years and watch Fox and go back 10 years and watch CNN, they flip flop on issues all the time.
All the time.
And this person will be like, "Oh, this guy, this politician, he's a good guy. We support him, whatever." And then they might say that directly, but what their attitude and what they talk about, they're clearly like in support of one particular side or candidate. And then this guy will do some terrible stuff, or he or she, whoever, and they don't say anything about that. And then the other side, it's the same thing, and it's like, okay, this guy did some really bad stuff, and y'all supported him regardless. And on the other side, the same thing. So I don't know. I mean, you guys get it. I mean, I would say a good amount of people are starting to get wise, which is wonderful, to the charade that is mainstream media.
It's necessary to happen, like.
Yeah. Hopefully, man. But
Great Awakening.
Yeah. They let's see. We can talk about. We just, like we were saying earlier, we filmed our cryptid. I think I'm just like too loud or too soft. I keep moving this. Maybe it's just I'm fidgeting. We just recorded cryptids and or an episode on cryptids. We're gonna get, like we say it all the time. We're just trying to reiterate. We're making a series on it, and we're gonna go super in depth on all of them because, like, Mothman's a good example. There's so much stuff with him. There's like people who remote viewed it. There's like all these different encounters. Like it's he's been spotted. Whatever it is, there's sightings all over the world.
I mean, he's almost like, honestly, especially recently, he's in like pop culture and stuff just as much as Bigfoot.
Yeah,
or any other,
Because but like the thing with Bigfoot is, it's more. I hate to use the term old school, but it is because it's just like, it's a Yeti, like, and they thought it was like there's a lot of theories on that one, which, like I said, we'll go into. But Mothman has got more of a, I don't know if I would say sinister, but like it's definitely more. It's darker in some way. I don't know how to describe it. It's definitely more chilling, I guess would be a good word for it. But I don't know, cryptids is I like that subject just because it's super. It's a very broad subject. Like there's a lot of stuff, and a lot of stuff can be. It's either tied into or associated with other things, but it's not so. For one thing, it's not a divisive thing. Right, like it's not political or nothing like that.
A way that we look at it is, by the definition of cryptid, technically to us, an alien could be a cryptid.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's a good like introductory topic. That's kind of why we chose it.
And it's almost Halloween, so
yeah, exactly.
Kind of perfect,
pretty much
to be starting out and whatnot.
And we'll get into like werewolves. I don't know if you consider that. I guess it's a cryptid because
it's like
it's mythological.
It's also mythic,
vampire. Really, that's what I'm saying. Like it's such an umbrella term. You can really put anything underneath cryptid as long as it's like hard to explain or you don't know a lot about it. It's elusive type of thing.
Tons of like claims throughout history of. There's been claims of actual vampires.
Yeah, back in the Victorian area, I think is what it was.
Elizabeth Bathory.
That's a whole
Vlad, like all those.
That's a huge rabbit hole. Like Vlad being like the Windsors, who are like the royal family in England right now. They are directly related to Vlad. Like I can't remember if it was Prince Charles. Somebody like he talked about it all the time, which is not like damning. I'm just saying like. Yeah,
right.
They were part of this. Like, if you look at Elizabeth Bathory and Vlad, they were part of this. There was a thing called the Order of the Dragon, and there's a lot of takes on that. the Order of the Dragon. They thought it was just like a chivalric, standard knight, order of knights, just like anything else. But why was Elizabeth Bathory part of it? She wasn't a knight, and she was like a mass murderer. She killed like 100 something handmaidens and would like drain the blood into a bath, and she was convinced that would keep her young.
Help her skin, all this
weird
crazy
stuff. Yeah. I don't know. It's pretty malicious for sure.
No, definitely.
But I'm excited for y'all to see this cryptids episode. It's a good, like I said, primer. We're doing like YouTube, we're making, I guess, shorter episodes. It's not like your typical podcast. It's just more brief stuff, primer, if you will.
Almost like not really like a top list or whatever, but it's almost like, a bullet point kind of.
Yeah, I mean, that
get you interested and let you want to come kind of,
most people know about what Bigfoot is.
Yeah, come hang out with us in the podcast is what we really want. And,
yeah, this is where most of the action is going to happen.
Yeah.
And eventually, we want to get a website and
do live Q&A stuff.
Yeah,
really
current. Talk about current stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that'll come with time and all that. But we're working up to it. At the moment, we live like an hour and a half away from each other in different parts of the state, so it's a little hard sometimes to find time to record. But we're getting it done. We're gonna
make it happen.
Yeah. Let's see. I guess we can talk more about like UFOs and stuff like that, and secret societies. We've got some bullet points. This is just kind of like I said, our first. We're just going to talk about a wide array of things. So
kind of get you into.
We might ramble or digress a tiny bit. And like I said, I apologize. We're going to get better. Just be patient with us. But I don't know. To me, a podcast is just chilling and hanging out,
just talking,
discussing ideas, and I can't encourage us enough. Like, don't be shy. Like, comment, talk to us. Like, say what I liked what you talked about here, or could you elaborate more on this, or have you heard of this? Like, engage with us for real, because
we definitely like to hear about stuff that maybe we haven't heard about.
That's what we want this to be, not just like us. It's not just we want it to be a community. We want to reach out, you guys to reach out to us and talk to us.
Spoon feed you a bunch of bullshit
exactly.
we're coming up with. You know what I mean? Like.
Believe us, because we looked it up. I mean, we've talked about that. We don't want. We're not trying to tell you what to think, by any means. So, I guess we can talk about UFOs a little bit.
We don't want to tell you how to think. We just want to tell you to think.
Yeah, basically. Use your brain. Yeah, it's up there. Use it. It's a powerful tool. I guess.
So what about UFOs?
Yes.
We're going to get into some Roswell stuff. Some what was it? Aztec, New Mexico.
New Mexico. So Roswell was like, everybody knows about Roswell. I mean, it happened a while in the 40s, the mid 40s, or actually towards the late 40s. But there was also like he was saying, the Aztec, New Mexico crash, which was, and this one is a little more Roswell. Like there's news clippings about it, like where they said, this was a UFO, it was an unidentified object, like a saucer, like a spacecraft. They literally
used
in so many words said, like, this is it, like that's what this is. And then literally, like, it was like the next day or 2 days later, the brass and all these, official people start coming in and be like, no, that's not what it was. We retract everything. If that's not what we meant. It was a weather balloon and all this stuff. And that's where people, like, they're always like, if you look on, like, like pages where they talk about that stuff, like, UFO stuff, communities and crap, they'll be like, it's a common joke to be like, oh, it's a weather balloon, or it was swamp gas.
Swamp gas,
yeah. And there was this interview with this guy who was like an admiral. This is a good example of another example of that. And he was like, he made a good point. He was like, back in the day, like, if a news station covered, like, if they interviewed somebody who saw a UFO, like, typically it was not somebody, I'm not saying not bright or unintelligent, but it was like some, southern dude or something who was just like, yeah, we was out hunting and we saw this bright light and blah blah blah, and
they were a loon.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like it's just kind of. I mean, there was already this atmosphere of ridicule and stuff around it at that time. It definitely wasn't more accepted as it is now, but it's just they don't really like ever highlight people who are really into like that know about it, like the admirals and of the what is it, the federal FAA or FFA, people who like regulate, they make laws and they regulate like air traffic. They got to know like that they're the people you're.
I think it's FAA.
FAA,
but I'm not real sure.
I'm about to look it up. We're on it. But it was like an admiral, and he was talking about it like, why isn't that more talked about? Like this dude was literally like in this organization. I gotta look it up. I'm sorry, folks, but FFA is the
Future Farmers
of America. Yes. Yes. Federal Aviation Administration, FAA. He was like one or two down from the admiral, which is like the head.
Yeah.
And he was like based in Alaska, and it was this UFO that you can look this up yourselves. This Japanese pilot, or these Japanese pilots, they were flying over Anchorage, or it was some part of, I think it was Juneau, Alaska, which is like more like north on the coast, and they were going over, and it's like one of the few that they had 45 minutes of radar, and it wasn't just like they saw a blip on the radar. It was like the Japanese pilots saw it, they radioed it into the whoever was like doing air traffic control in that area for the FAA, and they were like, yeah, we see this. They deployed jets, they scrambled jets, and they went and got to where that plane was and where this UFO was, and the pilots were like, yeah, we see it at our 10 o'clock, and the pilots at the same time in the cargo ship were like, we see it at our 4 o'clock. So they were talking about the same, like they both the pilots in the jets and the pilots in the cargo ship were all seeing the same thing, and they had it on radar, like they had it locked in for like 45 minutes. And apparently, according to the Japanese pilots, it was like 10 times or something the size of a 747. It was this huge ball that had like lights on it and some kind, I don't know if they were like, it was just energy or if it was actual light, whatever. They said it was lit up, like you see this light going around the around it, and it was just following them. It was just like keeping up with them, moving up and down, like no problem. It was just following them, and it kind of like changed, like it was just observing them basically. And the Japanese pilot like eventually got so much flack for it and all this stuff, and he was like, he never changed his story though. He was like, I know what I saw. He drew all these pictures. He wrote a book about it and everything. Like it was crazy. But yeah, that's like, why don't they talk about that? Like instead we've got this, and if you look in the news, it's like this tiny, like it's like it's an infrared, but it's like when you look at it, it's black and white, and it's like just it looks like almost kind of like jet flare off the back of a jet, like from the engine. And it's just like this is the real deal. The government's saying this is real. And it's just like it's so hard to tell exactly what it is. You couldn't tell. Like, I mean, it's definitely some kind of aircraft. You can see the clouds going underneath of it, but it's like they just pick like 3 or 4 clips, and it's like the most unconvincing ones. And there's ones out there that are just like, I realize there's probably a lot of fake and wrong side, like misidentified sightings. Like they thought it was a UFO, probably a drone.
Yeah, right.
I would say in most cases, like what people think they saw, like there was probably an explanation for it. But there's also, I mean, even among that small percentage that's like unexplainable, there's a lot.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, I don't know, UFO. Like I can just go on and on about it. There's so many different like stories and just information about it, man. It's
just like UFOs and craft, it's not even touching the
who these people are,
species,
yes, exactly. Like what do they believe?
Dimensions, whatever.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like it gets.
Yeah.
Where are they from? Who are they?
Yeah, I see it like another one.
When are they from?
Yeah, yeah. See, that's another thing. Like that's another like theory that some of them are like us from the future. All this different stuff. Like it was called Rendlesham.
Talk about it.
Yeah,
we're gonna talk about it.
Yeah, for sure. Again, like that. That's basically like why, like me personally, I want to do this. Like, it doesn't matter, man. You should talk about it, whether it's crazy or not. You know, I think Tesla was the one who said, if science like examined non-physical and like more, if they just focused on the non-physical, it's something like, I'm butchering the quote, but it was like if they focus on that for like, they would get more done in a decade than they have in a century. If they just examine more data. Like it's just, I'm not saying, I love science, I love the scientific method, like I'm all about it, but I feel like we think, oh, we understand this about physics, we understand this about, reality and stuff, but in all reality, you don't know what you don't know, and we probably haven't even scratched the surface. We're probably just looking at it. We know it's there.
Right.
We
just
think
now
we're advanced,
surface,
but like who knows, man? That's what's fascinating about it. Like just thinking about like what could exist out there. I don't know. It's just, I love it.
Another thing that always got me as a kid, and even back then, not really like into conspiracy theories and all that as a kid, because obviously I didn't learn about any of that stuff until I was a little older.
Being a kid, yeah.
But seeing stuff, movies again and whatnot, like we were talking about earlier, like where do they get these ideas?
Yeah.
Where did this come from?
And that's a whole different topic. Like the whole drip feed of disclosure type stuff. It's like I always thought when I was young, like because I had this job where it was a really like not very well paying part-time job, and I'd work like 15 hours a week, but I would take like magazines and put them, like, when you go to Walmart and you go to the checkout line, there's all those magazines on the end caps, for the checkout lanes.
Yeah.
I was the one who put all that stuff out there. And like you would see Enquire, like it was like Bill Clinton took a ride with 2 gay aliens in a spaceship or something. Like it was some crazy, headline. And it's like, I wonder, I would say a overwhelming percentage of it is, bullshit. But it's just like,
how much of it is a little bit of truth
the whole,
or something?
Truth is stranger than fiction.
That goes into of a more spiritual side of stuff about intent.
Yeah.
I mean, it's your
crazy
will be known type of thing.
That you say that, because like that's kind of what got me into the more spirituality oriented subjects is UFOs.
Yeah.
Because it's, if you, not to get super deep, but if you think about it, like, and I don't know why I would say not to get super deep. I like, I love those conversations.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you were an advanced species and you had the capability, you would have to cooperate tremendously to, work together, and, research and advance your, technology, get to the point where you could travel thousands and thousands of light years, millions, to get to other, habitable planet, just to explore space in general. So you'd have to be super disciplined. You couldn't just be squabbling like we are, divided about everything and all this stuff. And you would really have to be, you'd have to have discipline. You'd have to be tempered.
Oh, definitely.
In order to do that. Either that, or it would just be like a total, like, totalitarian, like, tyrant, like, you're working for us, you're not getting paid nothing, and you can either help us do this and, explore and conquer, basically, or, it's one of the two. Like, I feel like those are the two most likely scenarios, but that's what, like, led me to spirituality, like I said, is because it's like, we're nowhere close to that, you know, which is, this is a good segue into like, you know, what we wanted to talk about, like another bullet point. We're, you know, I mean, as far as like what technology we have in regards to space travel and what we know about all that, I feel like as far as what the public knows is not at all what we're capable of at the current moment. That's just my opinion.
No,
but you would definitely have to, like I said, we couldn't be, you couldn't be squabbling and fighting over just the most petty things, like in all reality, like, you know, like we are right now. So, I mean,
and it goes back to
like whether you're, like I said, this is a good segue to what we wanted to, like another topic, like, yet again, it's just reiterating, you know, I guess what I'm trying to say is like the point of the, you know, us doing this, a big thing we want to get across is it doesn't matter like what you are, like what you identify as, like, you know, I'm Republican, I'm Democrat, or I got the jab, I didn't get the jab. Like it's really not in the long run, in the, you know, bigger picture. Like it's not like we got to stop squabbling about all this stuff. And because if, I mean, in the majority of the time, man, in life, like you have more in common with people than you realize. You really do. And we just sit there and focus on like what's different about, you know, this and that, and it's just it's so counterproductive. As a species, we've got like, all kinds of potential.
As if you went out wasted. And asked 100 like just regular everyday people around your town what their goal for their life would be, most of them are gonna have relatively close to the same answer.
Yeah, they want to exist. They want to be happy.
Yeah, like,
you know, I mean, that's it. They want to have free will for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Which we'll get into that in a lot of different, you know, episodes and stuff. But when we start talking about secret societies and, you know, oppressive agendas, quote unquote, all those different conspiracies and stuff.
Perpetual poverty and...
Yeah. But, you know, beyond that, like, people are, more, well, like I said, way more alike than they are different.
No, yeah.
You know, like, it's
just
like,
like,
oh, well, you support this guy.
media,
Okay, big deal. Like,
you
I
know.
bet you there's, like, that's one thing that's different about us. And ultimately, like, if none of that existed, you wouldn't be fighting over it. You would be, you know, I mean, you might find something else to fight about, obviously, but I don't know.
There's always going to be a little squabble.
Yeah.
Or of some sort, but...
And I think that's more of like a primal thing because, like, you know, like back in the day before we were more, if you were, you know, not advanced technologically and stuff, resources are... That's the name of the game, you know, as far as like survival. I mean, you see that in nature everywhere. That goes into a whole different topic about like levels of consciousness and how self-aware you are and all that. But resources is the name of the game, and so you want to ensure, do what you can to ensure that you and people that are close to you, that, you know, and all that, like your tribe basically has enough resources. And if this other person's a threat, you have to either defend it or come up with ways to prevent them from taking it. Right. In most cases, they were. You know, you were competing, competition. It was, you know, embedded in life. Yeah,
all the time is a matter of life and death.
Yeah,
every
exactly.
day.
But we're that model, in my opinion, with where we are now as a species. Like it's not, that model of existing is not going to work. I mean, yes, there's elements of it that you can't get rid of that are always going to exist, but you know,
it's because so much of the history of the world has been achieved through that type of
that paradigm.
Like violence and war is the only way to achieve something that
force in general. You know,
so
and it's, you know, really it's become more as far as like there's deception thrown in there too now, like with force. You know what I'm saying? It's more, it's easier just to trick people. And
reading The Art of War, and it's all about, you know, deception, espionage, and gaining information that whole thing, on like, the enemy. And
basically, I mean, it's just, it's mind games. Like it really is more mental. It's all mental, man. It really is. That stuff's, I don't know, I love The Art of War and just that concept in general. Like,
it's a pretty good book. It's short, but
yeah, I don't even know where we're going with this, like the whole anti-divisive thing. I think it's important, man, because nobody really. I mean, like
I guess
yet
kind of
again,
like if you're gonna be in the comment section talking about crazy
yeah, be
stuff, because
polite,
we're
please.
talking. You
know,
know,
don't be fighting.
Yeah.
I mean, you can disagree with
polite
people
to
all
one
day,
another.
and state your opinion, and because everybody's got one, man. I understand that. I've definitely got
Be
my opinions
respectful
about
with
stuff.
your disagreements.
Yeah, just keep it civil, please.
You're not all of you aren't gonna agree with us on everything.
Yeah,
you know. So I mean, we can discuss it. It's kind of what we want to do.
Yeah,
you know.
I mean, it's a podcast, and it's a way for us to turn our hobby into something that's more hopefully a career. Make some kind of at least make some supplementary money or whatever. How far it goes, but that's not like me personally. That's not my main goal with it. I just like talking to people about
bring awareness to people,
abstract ideas, and at the same time,
it's nice to know if we can gain a nice following, that there's more people out there like us, that are on the same wavelength, that think like we do, that kind of like the Great Awakening. I hate using that because it's kind of
it's been people just see it as some cheesy,
it's that woke term.
It's almost sounds cultish, in a way, and it's just like, but I mean, it really just what it means is people becoming aware, like yet again, that we're really not that different. We're all the same species.
The veil's being lifted, like people are seeing that no matter which side you stand on, they're both not great.
No, and great, great, not great is putting it lightly.
Yeah.
In my opinion, but I don't know. Just at some point, man, we as humans, we gotta, I mean, we're kind of just going in circles on it, but we got to figure out some way to just get past all these little tiny petty indifferences and realize our true potential, because we got tons of it, in my opinion. I mean, we could be, if we weren't fighting and stuff, we could be, on Mars and all that stuff. We could be doing just amazing things. But, let's see. I guess that's another good segue into like secret societies and stuff. I don't know. I guess we can kind of discuss it a little bit, because that stuff gets super like rabbit holey, and this leads to this, and this leads to this, and this guy, or all that stuff this ties into this type of thing.
It goes into like not being able to advance with like as a society. The secret societies kind of like are the reason behind that.
When we say secret, or when I say secret society, I don't just necessarily mean like like dudes in robes, like having some ritual and sacrificing people.
Like dudes in suits.
Yeah, man, it's really just people who know what you don't know, and they know that that's a game changer. Like knowledge is info is super like
control
it's the best resource. It's the most important resource. Yeah. So that's really what it is. It's just we don't necessarily mean like Luciferian cults, or like all these secret societies, like
do blood rituals.
Not that they don't exist
forever type of shit.
Yeah, not that there's not
that stuff's cool.
Those
and
type of secret societies.
About.
That's just not the only area that in my opinion, that secret societies the term covers.
Yeah, right.
But I mean, the military-industrial complex could be considered a secret society, just because it's, they're war profiteering. It's info kept within, a certain, group of people and stuff like that. And they're like, we're just going to make this big ruckus. We're going to get everybody to go to war. We're going to go attack these people. And guess what? We're also going to be the people selling you all the means to do so.
Yeah.
And we're just going to keep it going on forever. We're going to make tons and tons and tons of money. Trillions. I mean, why do you think partly why we're so in debt, just in the USA in general, is, we're just constantly at war with somebody, just perpetual warfare, all the time. Not saying that you shouldn't be, defending.
Machine.
Yeah, basically, it's a giant racket, bro. It is. But
terrible.
I don't know. What's your favorite secret societies that you know of that you're familiar with? What's your favorite to talk about?
I like to learn or read about older secrets is like origins of
Yeah.
like the Templars and the Masons and stuff, dude.
Yeah.
Like that shit's awesome.
Yeah.
But I like the more. I mean, of course you hear about the Illuminati and all that, but I like hearing about
It's such an umbrella term. I feel like.
You know, like the Brotherhood.
Yeah.
Council,
See, not a lot of people know about like the Brotherhood, and see that's the thing is like, I almost feel like some of them have multiple names, multiple things they call themselves, so it's really hard.
It's like a chapter of
to pin this down.
Yeah.
They got multiple names for it, so you really don't know who's who, what's what, type stuff.
You're looking over here, but it's over here.
It's this, or I mean, it's part of it, but that's like a tentacle.
Yeah, right.
Of the, the greater beast, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. Like Brotherhood's interesting. Skull and Bones is super. I like Skull and Bones because, or I like that. Not that I really like them, I guess is what I'm trying to say, but it's interesting. It's a good one because there's been Democrat.
It's known.
It's known, and people, like the members are from different spectrums of the political, different sides of the political spectrum. So it's like that right there is kind of like.
Does that not show you
that's not? What I'm saying. Like y'all we're literally just divided and conquering us. Yeah. But basically we're just keeping us divided. That's one of my main reasons. Is
they're putting on a fixed boxing match, basically.
Yeah, man, it's just a show, in my opinion. But that's why I like that one, and it's got all these there's all these rituals that they do. That's it seems like dark stuff, man.
Yeah, dude.
It's super. It's just interesting to know about.
Bohemian Grove,
yeah.
And then that's when you get into symbology and stuff, which I like too.
Symbology is so fascinating, man, because it's literally and I know
it goes back
you don't
to
have
ancient, ancient stuff like Egyptian and
whether
Sumerian.
You agree or not. I mean, one could debate how much is actually symbolism, as far as a good one is the Eye of Providence, the whole people hold up the triangle with their hands and all that that's one thing, but
I feel like that's more deception stuff.
Yeah, that's a whole different topic. But there is it's out there. It's what it means is one thing, but just admitting that it's out there and that there's a lot of it that is not super obvious at first, but it's in there. It's almost subliminal. I mean, there's tons of symbology and just all this different stuff.
The dollar bill.
One that we'll get into. I'm not going to go super into it right now, but it's like the hammer and sickle from communism being Saturn. That's a symbol of Saturn. It's super fascinating, man.
Everybody knows the pyramid.
Yeah. See, that's another thing I want. We're definitely going to talk about is ancient Egyptian stuff. I think it's called Hermeticism, which was more their spiritual belief and
we might start. That'd be a good one to start off with in
the mythologies.
Mythology. We could start it there, but I mean,
there's so much content, dude.
The Egyptian stuff is awesome, and it runs pretty deep into a bunch of different subjects.
Yeah, I mean, because at a time they were one of the. It's it was right around, and there's references to it in the Bible and all this other stuff. So it's it's not just we know about it. And it was interesting, they were well known as an empire basically back in the day. So, I don't know, just that and their, I don't know, spiritual philosophy on a lot of stuff, just the way that the gods how they related to each other. Anubis is a good example. He gets a bad rap. They think he's evil, and he was just the guy who judged your soul at the end. He would judge your heart and see if it was pure or not. He was the one determined whether if you had a enjoyable afterlife or if you went to the not so enjoyable one, or if you had to work on it, all this different stuff. He was basically just the gatekeeper, so to speak, kind of like Cerberus, but not so much. He was more involved. But yeah, I don't know. I love the old ancient Egyptian stuff is super. We're gonna definitely get into that. Let's see. not all, we realize not everybody's like a gamer and stuff like that, and this might be a little bit more of a niche topic, but at some point we're going to get into like not necessarily like talk about games and what was awesome about them, but more so the lore and like the stuff behind them and like the kind of almost spiritual correlations that it's got to like a lot of philosophies and
a lot of games I feel like pull a lot of things from real life and just kind of especially like we love Fallout. It's a great series and we feel like they pull a lot of stuff that goes on in the world.
Fallout, just the premise of that scares me, man, because it's like
it's a total possibility.
I mean, if you look, like China's gearing up, we're gearing up. I'm not saying not to freak anybody out or nothing like that to cause like panic, but it's definitely it's relatable. You got China rising up and America kind of like to say you got two superpowers, and it happened in 2077. Yeah. So that's like 50 some years from now, and at that point like resources would be going scarce, you'd be competing over it. I don't know, like the whole nuclear warfare. I'm not saying something like that's not possible for nuclear war to happen, but it's that's the point of absolute no return. Like
like
even if you're a twisted individual, like it would be, and it's not like anybody can just go and hit the button. Like it's not that simple.
It's not like that.
Not anywhere close, but which I mean, there are. I don't know about if I believe it, but there are conspiracies about how there is no nuclear weapons, and now it's just a way to keep people like, oh, we could get to this point. Don't you make us do it, like that type of thing. But
any logical person has to know, like. With anybody, the person, the people with that power to be able to do that, it's like you have to know that there's nothing left after.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like it would be a really, like it would be a hard, it would be a difficult last resort to get to that point. I feel like that would take a lot to get us to that point, but who knows? Elder Scrolls is another one. Like it gets really like basically the premise. Like if you get into it, like I don't know, I'm a nerd, so like I love that type of stuff. But it's basically the premise, like everything that happens in that game, and there's a lot of installments. There's a ton of lore. It's almost like Lord of the Rings. There's just so much, backstory and all this stuff. But the whole premise is that everything that's happening is a dream inside some other being's mind. Like it's all a dream. Like none of it is real. But people who like all the gods and like really super powerful immortal beings are people that have realized that they're in a dream, but at the same time they're an individual. It's like this paradox. And that what gives it's like where they derive their like they know that it's not real, so they can manipulate it any way they want.
So it'd be like it's almost like they've broken the fourth wall.
Yeah, kind of. Basically,
in the world,
it's super interesting. It's just like you are in a dream, but you're still an individual. Like you still have there is self within that.
Yeah,
right. And No Man's Sky is another one. If you're like I said, you're not a gamer. It's basically a game about it's procedurally generated, meaning that it's creating it as you're exploring it. And there's literally like 200 some galaxies in the game, literal galaxies, and every one of those galaxies has billions and billions of planets, or like at least millions of solar systems that you can physically go to, and all this stuff. Which is that kind of gets into is this a simulation type stuff? Like really, like what like it, who knows, man? It could be like if they're capable of doing that. In a game that that's still like pretty small in comparison to like how many galaxies there are. There's so many, like we can't even count it really. It's a lot more limited in the game, but it's still like, that's just what we're technologically capable of simulating and creating. But it's like, it really makes you think like, is like is this a simulation? Like,
Could
cause
it be?
I mean, it
could
really
be.
does make you think, man. You know,
Yeah.
there's so many things that you could explain if it was a simulation, like the whole Mandela effect. It's like, it's a glitch. It's an error in the code type of thing. You know, so I don't know. That stuff's super fascinating too.
It's scary, but it's super interesting.
Yeah, and I'm sorry. Like I said, if we're just ranting and getting off topic, but
This is all stuff we're going to talk about.
Yeah, we're
so
basically
if
just-
any of it sounds interesting,
yes,
it's going to get.
please tune in. This is like the tip of the iceberg. Another bulletin point. I guess I don't know. We kind of talked about mainstream media. It's what time did we start? How long have we been doing it?
An hour.
Okay, we'll go for a little bit more. Another bulletin point, or topic we got, talking point, is mainstream media, which we kind of talked about that already. But like, I guess for me personally, like, I don't trust any of it. Like, for the most part, not saying that news stations can't report stuff that's factually accurate, but nearly, and like I said, this is just me, but so much of it is, I would say, overwhelming majority is not, I'm not saying completely fake, but it's spun. It's kind of like the concept of
half-truths.
Yeah, or let's say you got a picture of a field and of a bunch of people in it, and then you zoom in on like two people and then blow that up and portray that as the whole picture. It's kind of like, they'll zoom in on one little facet of what happened or something and say, oh, that's all they'll talk about, but they're not talking about all the other crap that happened with it, or all the other aspects to whatever they're talking about. And they portray that one little tiny fact as the wider truth, when in reality there's so much more that they're not even talking about, they won't acknowledge, or if they do talk about it, it's a half-truth or, partially true or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, it's just never...
Or the way they talk about it. The tone of how they talk about it makes it
Oh, yeah,
seem,
there's so many different dimensions and aspects to it. It's definitely, I don't know, like, it's just propaganda, like, literally is what it is.
And it's like, also, if you watch the news, you would think that you're going to walk outside and see some type of violent act or be a victim of something.
Yeah, as soon as you go
like,
outside,
it's
man, your
all,
car's about to get jacked right in front of
because
you. You're
as
going to get mugged.
a human species, for whatever reason, we're attracted to, I don't know, like,
that goes back to MK
stories,
Ultra.
yeah, stories
I
of
mean,
like despair and stuff. So
well,
that's what they put on the news.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's kind of like it. They learned, in my opinion, a while ago that a good way to control a populace is fear, man.
Fear, keep
And
you scared.
Yeah,
and
pretty much.
dependent and
So you can't concentrate. That's another part of it. It's like you can't focus on.
you can't go
Makes
out.
it so much harder to work together, and because you're
can't
worried
go
about
out and
surviving.
live freely.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there's always in the back of your mind
You're
of
worried.
what's going to happen.
You're
Something-
afraid.
Yeah, right.
So I'm saying you can't, like, if it's like the fight or flight thing. Like, if you're in a constant state of, are we going to all die from from this or that, or is this going to happen? This disaster, this this bad thing, that bad thing. You're worried about that, and it's like a primal thing. It brings it takes you more in a survival mindset. Like, I got to worry about myself, which I'm not saying you shouldn't. Like, a lot of, I think what we need to do is people need to worry about, like, look inward,
No.
and I'm not saying like I'm a beacon of virtue or nothing like that, but I mean, just in general, like, that's we could fix a lot of problems if people just focused on themselves. So I'm not saying you shouldn't worry about yourself and all that, but it's definitely, it keeps us out of being able to work together and focus and really just focus on the bigger picture and coexist basically. It's just, I don't know, constantly, man. And it's like we talked about before, like they flip-flop so much on stuff, and it's just like, didn't y'all just support this, and now you're against this other person, but they also supported that thing, that you were also in support of. Like, you both support the same thing, and you're both like, oh yeah, this is a good thing. But it's like, okay, but you just bashed this person for not agreeing with you on this other thing, and not necessarily they're portraying like this is a bad person, but it's just, they flip-flop so much on things, and it's just, I don't know, man. It goes back to what you said, like, it's constantly like, this person got robbed. This, gas prices are going to go up. This person got shot over here. This person got a triple homicide over here. Blah blah blah.
It's so backwards that good news has like literally on most news stations or radio stations. It's like they have their own like Good News Friday thing, and it's like what cool thing, nice good thing happened for the weekend. It's like really like
when in reality all like everybody in the society went out and existed and really for the most part got along.
Yeah, right.
I mean, like that alone is like we didn't kill each other, wipe each other out today. You know what I'm saying? Like that's a stepping stone.
We made it another one.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like everybody just did their what they do and went about their day and did what they do.
I found that most people, especially like the internet's really bad too, social media.
I would say not necessarily that. I mean, the internet for sure, but like social media and social media.
Most people go out and coexist each and every day, but when you get on the internet or you listen to the news, it's just a toxic.
Exactly. Like so, like
dump, dude.
like there's somebody on Facebook, let's say you're friends with, and they're like talking about some political thing. Like I don't agree with that at all. They're stupid. All this negative, shit and all this judgment and, demeaning and stuff like that. And then you see that person in real life, like them in real life, you're friends with them. And it's like, oh, yeah, cool. It's like, why are we even, then, like, just cut out the argument altogether? They're already,
right.
What I'm saying? It's just, not that you can't, it's good to discuss stuff and disagree, but people get super, like.
People think that.
They get aggressive and, like, they want to just cancel.
At least one person in the conversation most of the time is going to get offended and then go on the defense.
Yeah, and just get defensive and like personally attack the person instead of talking about the actual topic.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I get that a lot of this stuff is emotional because it affects people. It's people's lives are involved in all these things, so it's hard sometimes to not get emotionally triggered. But I mean, that's like what the mainstream media is, and when I say professional, I mean professional at. Like they're pros, man. Mm-hmm. They're super good at it. And if you really get into if you really dig into the media and like its structure, like that whole, what was it called? A Mockingbird. It was an operation where they literally put, their people, so to speak, in positions in all these media companies. This was like in the 60s and 70s. And they would either, report on what was going on at the very least. But, they aimed higher. They tried to get people into, like, editing positions and stuff like that. People who made, who decided and had some influence
executive decisions.
Yeah, exactly. Like what they reported on, what they said when they reported on stuff.
What got printed and what didn't.
And you can say that's not a thing at all, but it definitely is. It just, for me.
Well, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people have seen the news clips of, they'll pull up, 30 different cities of 30 different newscasters saying the exact same
man, that
thing.
video was nuts. Like it was literally like 30 to 40 different stations.
Truman
It was like a couple
shit.
at first. It just kept getting bigger, and it was like all these different news stations were talking about something, and it was literally word for word the same. They were all saying the same thing, and it's like that's not. I mean.
I guess you could say that they're all telling the same news, so it has to be true.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That, but but to that point,
every one of them is gonna say it
they're
word
literally
for word
they
on
emailed each other the exact
almost.
same script, and we're like, y'all gonna read this, even though we're in competition with you as a news business, as a corporate,
right.
as a
we want viewers on our station, not your station.
Yeah, exactly. Like if y'all really competing. Yeah, explain that one. But I mean that goes into like if you start looking at who owns like different networks and all this stuff, like it's not as it's more consolidated than people realize. It's kind of like a good way to explain it is like if you look at KFC, Pizza Hut. All these different like fast food chains, they're all owned by Yum Corporation, which is a conglomerate basically, and they own what you would think would be in competition with. No, they're not. They're just different streams of revenue for the same company. And that's the same with news, man. Like it's literally like 6 different companies basically own all media.
Yeah.
You know, and that's not just news networks. That's websites. That's forums. That's
Sports channels,
fact checkers. Like I mean, like really, and that's a whole different topic. And get me started on that. Like
Google.
Yeah, it's more consolidated than what people think. Is my point.
Yeah.
Like it definitely is. So if you take that and all that other stuff we talked about, you have to start asking harder questions and more in-depth questions about that whole structure and industry. Like, is it really? Obviously, you come to the conclusion, in my opinion, it's not created. It's not their interest and their goal and stuff like that is to not keep you informed, man. It's not. It's literally anti that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They want to misinform and misdirect your emotions and anger. So, they can't let you have control.
Yeah.
And they don't want you to think
that's not to say that all these news companies are following like one single little tiny group. Like it goes back to what we were talking about, secret societies and stuff. Like if you were, one of these organizations or groups or, conglomerates of people, whatever you want, secret society, and you had a lot of power and influence, it's like the saying, absolute power corrupts absolutely. If you got that much power, you wouldn't want to share it with other people. You want to control it.
No, right.
Your little group of people do. You may have to work with other groups, in a loose way to maybe. Oh, fuck. So yeah, I know we've been, rambling and pretty much, I don't know, it's kind of hard to stay on topic when we don't really, I mean, we got talking points, like I said, but we're just really, this one is, it's going to be a full-length podcast. It's our first one, but it's more just general discussion about all the different topics that we're eventually going to get into and stuff like that. And, future podcasts are going to be more.
There'll be a lot to cover.
Yeah, more on point about different things. It's going to be more focused, but we'll have a lot more research, pulled up and done to, help facilitate what we're trying to talk about and then, be able to fill the content.
I'd like to try to start doing like some YouTube shorts.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing that. Yeah.
I like to I want to kind of get into TikTok, but like we were talking about earlier, it's
basically
sketchy on TikTok.
Like all those social media sites, it's just a way to funnel people. It's a way to get y'all to the website, which is where, we're not going to be censored. I mean, I don't care what political side of the spectrum you're on. All that different stuff. Like, where was I going with that? What was I saying? Man, I'm sorry.
We're trying to get you to the.
Oh
website.
yeah, I don't censorship. Yeah. Sorry. I don't care what side of the political spectrum you are. What you're on this, you're for that, whatever. Like censorship is happening on platforms like YouTube, all that different stuff, Twitter. I mean, it's a reality. I'm sorry. So on our website, like not only can we we don't have to have there's no ads and all this other stuff. It's uninterrupted. It's unfiltered. That's what it's going to be. And we're going to speak our mind. Like I said, we're not going to get polarized or anything like that. We're going to try not to. But
push any agendas.
Yeah, we're not going to push anything on y'all as far as like we're going to give you the information. We're going to give you all kinds, but that's up for you to decide whether you believe in it or not.
I feel like our beliefs are ever changing.
Yeah,
so,
that's an important thing. At least for me, like if you find something that's
I can find some hard
contrary to what you think, you should be malleable enough mentally to shift a little bit.
If I learn some information that I feel like is solid enough to go against what I believe, then I can change my mind on it.
Yeah,
and not feel like I'm flip flopping. It's like, no, okay, this is hard evidence.
No, but that's reality, man. That's life. Like, it's you should change is inevitable, you know what I'm saying, in a lot of different things, but that's a broad way to say it, but yeah. So we want to get people to the website. We're really, we're getting ready to, or pretty soon we're going to have it up. We're going to get all that taken care of and knocked out and all that stuff. But that's where the action is going to be. We're going to try to get on Rockfin. We've had a little bit of trouble getting on there, but I think it's because we didn't have like videos and content out. You know, I think they got to have
put a few things,
a certain amount of stuff. Maybe, upload it. I don't know. We can get into that later, but yeah, Rockfin. We want to get on Rockfin. There's a lot more, you know, podcasts like ours. Definitely more developed ones and further along ones, but yeah. We want to get on there, and there's going to be other platforms and websites.
Yeah, we'll be on stuff like
different stuff, different ways to access us,
and whatnot.
Yeah, but as far as completely unfiltered, uncensored, you know, all this different stuff, like that's the website. That's where the action's going to be at. That's where we want to get people to. I'm trying to think. Anything else?
We have to plug it just because, you know, it's never expected or anything, but we do have a Patreon.
Yes.
So
we'll have that in the description too.
Link it down if you want to donate or check it out.
If you want to donate, awesome. If you don't,
it's there.
It's just another way to support us.
Again,
and that stuff's great. Like, I can't convey, like, through this camera, you know, like how, you know, much if we do, you know, we get support like that, like how much we appreciate that, man. Like it means the world to us.
Yeah.
We're doing this for y'all and for something like that to happen, words can't, they fall short.
No, yeah. You know, we're gonna hopefully be able to come out with merch and stuff.
Yeah, that's coming too.
We want to grow to the point to where people actually would want to wear our merch and stuff.
Yeah,
you know
hopefully it gets to that point. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna have, I mean, you name it, man. I want to do T-shirts, I want to do hats, I want to do coffee mugs, I want to do stickers, hoodies, pajama pants. I mean, if you can come up with some kind of idea for merch, man, like, you know, we're probably gonna have it. So yeah, we got the merch, we got the website. All the different platforms that we're on are going to be in the description, like we've said a million times.
We don't, you know, obviously, I guess you could probably see from just this one episode here that we're not super huge fans of like social media and stuff, so we don't like. I don't at least have personal accounts. I do.
I wish I did.
I do the Twitter for Strange Realms, and then I have a gaming Twitter that I kind of get on, and that one helps me stay away from all the political stuff on there. So it's not stressful to like get on there and look at it. I got rid of Facebook like 2 years ago.
Smart man.
He takes care of all the Facebook stuff.
Yeah.
So you can interact with us on there. I mean, I've thought about maybe getting like a Discord and doing some live Q&As on there, but you can also do live stuff on YouTube.
I mean, I wouldn't mind having a Discord though, because it's free. It's on your phone,
and it's just another way to
it's really easy to use.
Connect with the community.
If you're already, you know, into that, if you already got Discord, you know about it, or you've used it, whatever. Like that's another way. So we're going to come up with as many ways to interact with us, and you know, kind of show what we're doing.
Connected.
Yeah, stay informed on what we're doing and stuff.
Obviously, over time, the content's gonna get better. We're gonna get better at editing. It's gonna be a lot more structured.
I mean, we've got this. We got these mics and this this Zoom recorder. We've dropped some money into it, and we're gonna keep doing it. You know, and not to sound like to rattle a tin cup, but you know, the support definitely, like any support that we get. That's another thing I want to reiterate. Like.
Even just liking the video and subscribing to the channel
is a huge help.
Completely free, and it just helps us out.
And if you decide to go beyond that and actually donate, like that's all going back into the podcast, man. Not a cent is going anywhere else.
sharing it with your friends that might like it, or might be into the same thing, want to listen or whatever.
Yeah, get it out there.
Yeah,
I'm going to be talking about it a lot more and advertising it, but yeah.
And I would like to come up with something to where if we do have, fans from an early start that
we're going to do giveaways.
Yeah, grandfather them in though when we start doing.
Oh yeah, for sure.
More.
No, because if you get in on the ground floor and all that, and let's say we start, I would not necessarily a subscription, but if we get to a certain point, you got all this, you got to start hiring other people to do stuff, then maybe, but the goal is to keep it as low cost to y'all, and we're not trying to get y'all's money, that's not the aim, man. We're just trying to grow the platform and the channel.
The hardest part for me is to coming up with extra content to give you guys that would be worth paying for.
Yeah.
We want to bring you as much as we can for absolutely nothing, just because we think some of this is important to know and people should.
Yeah, we need to get the info out there.
This stuff, so. But a lot of this stuff that we want to eventually, I guess try to generate some kind of revenue on would be extra.
Well, I mean, I think people aren't naive, man. It's a passion, and it's something I'm super, passionate about doing. But at the same time, it's I would love to do this full time. That would be a dream job, man, for real.
Most definitely. I tried to.
And like I said, we're not rattling a tin cup. Did you not feel obligated? But
I tried to. I wanted to dabble in gaming because we've talked about we're gamers or whatever, and I've got into that scene a little bit, and seen as I play mainly Call of Duty is my main game most of the time. So getting into that whole space and seeing how competitive it really was. I understand podcasting and all this stuff that we're trying to do is just as competitive. But
I mean, in a way, it's really not though, because
it's different than gaming.
Streaming and games. Not there's anything I like a lot of streamers, game streamers. I'm a gamer, man. I'm all about it. I'm into it. But it's definitely I feel like the good ones, the people that get popular, they're not competitive though. It's really, I mean, there are some, obviously. I guess it depends on the game and different stuff.
Well, a lot of it's personality though.
Yeah, but it's just more cutthroat. It's just not, I don't know. I could talk about games all day, but
and for me, it also kind of took out the enjoyment of
playing games.
Exactly. I'm not trying to come home and stress about getting the gameplay of a good game that would be post-worthy that people would want to watch. I just want to come home and play it for fun.
Kind of immerse yourself in something.
Sitting around and talking about this stuff is something we've done for a long time. And we've talked about doing a podcast to share it with people for a long time. And we were finally you know what, man, let's just pull the trigger and do it.
Yeah,
we're
just jump in.
Talk about it forever. So we just kind of.
I mean, 10 years from now, if we're still able to do it, even if we haven't got any kind of commercial success, I'd still do it, man, just to talk about it every now and then, put podcasts out I would love to. But yeah, that's basically that's most of the what's going on with us, and as far as all that stuff. Like we've said 100 million times, it's going to be in the description below, all these different links to all these different sites and platforms and ways to keep in contact with us. But we're definitely going to keep y'all informed and up to date on what we're doing. I'm going to be on the Facebook side of it. He'll be on Twitter. Get on YouTube, comment. Like I said again, I cannot stress enough. Engage with us. Tell us what you like, what you didn't like. I mean, be civil, obviously, but give us stuff to talk, stuff that you would like to see us talk about. That's really, I love that, because that it engages, it makes it more personal, so yeah, definitely, don't be shy, basically. I think that wraps it up, man. I really appreciate you guys. If you've made it this far, God bless you. I love you.
Made it this far,
for real, I mean that.
We appreciate
you guys are awesome.
The view.
Yes. All right, well, it's been awesome, man. Thanks for tuning in to Strange Realms. We'll see you on the next one.
Take it easy.
Peace.